there is one thing that never moves. There is one thing that is always present, and that is the space awareness. The space awareness, also known as consciousness, is the only thing that always is, and it doesn't move anywhere. Everything that appears, life, continuum, change, including birth, living, and passing on, that is a change. It is a moving reality. Therefore, happiness, the real happiness, is not to be found in that which is changeable, that which is subject to change. And one must find that which is unchangeable, that which is stable, that which is real. Finding that which is unmoving and stable provides the essential foundation for happiness, peace, love, and bliss. The true freedom is that stability, the unchangingness itself. So we can then realize that a feeling of freedom due to certain circumstances comes and goes. The same way happiness due to certain synchronous circumstances arises, is experienced, but then after a while it goes because life continues, something else occurs. Maybe boredom, not necessarily something challenging, but sometimes challenges also do arise. The key thing that moves is your mind. But this mind is bigger than your thoughts. This mind is made up of thoughts, mentality, emotions, psychology, and actually all energies that your attention is entangled with. So this is a broader definition of what is the mind. The ego is a fixation. When a certain fixed position is established, and one then defends that fixed position or acts out through that fixation. When there is a certain strength of the I that it has to be this way because that's what I know, because that's what I understand. So ego is simply a fixation. Ego can be dismantled, disassociated, disidentified, but the mind is something a lot bigger. It is the mental, emotional, psychological, subconscious, unconscious, energetic entanglement, energetic disposition. The nature of energy is to move, vibrate, change, to do its own thing, basically. The nature of energy is to do its own thing. The nature of thoughts is to suggest. If you see thoughts as suggestions, then you may realize that you have some choice. So the nature of energy is to change, to move, to vibrate, to flow, interact, and there is nothing wrong with that. But the problem arises when we start identifying, when we forget who we truly are. So I'd like to bring one quote from Ramana to support and clarify this realization of what is real and unmoving. That which does not exist always, but exists at one time and not at another, cannot be real. You exist always, and you alone are therefore real. So if something comes up at one time, but doesn't come up at another time, it's not real. It's transitory. It appeared and then it disappeared. The whole world is appearance in your consciousness. The whole world is born every morning upon your waking up. Without you, you will not know the world. There will be no world. So the world appears in consciousness, just like the movie appears on the white screen. So the white screen, is the white screen ever moving when the movie is displayed? Is your computer's black screen ever moving when the pixels are displaying all the things on it? No, the screen does not move. It is the nature of the light creating color in those pixels that makes an appearance. So the same way, it is the nature of energy to bring about a form, a shape, a substance, and therefore to allow to witness this experience. So actually, the whole universe is an appearance. It is a certain substance that appears, just like in the example of the movie that appears on the white canvas. And if we remove the movie from the canvas, there is only canvas left. Pure, untouched, unchanging. It has never moved anywhere. So to the canvas itself, nothing has ever happened. To God, self, nothing has ever happened. To the God self itself, to your own awareness itself, nothing has ever happened. However, your whole life, this projection has been portrayed upon your awareness. And that's where the question of identity comes in. Who are you really? So one needs to investigate closer. What is the nature of reality? What is this unmoving part? Where can I find this ultimate reality, which is the only foundation for true happiness, peace, love, and bliss? And therefore, every soul is navigating through layers of creation. Every soul is experiencing to find what is real and to recognize what is unreal. Every soul becomes interested in this and that, and as it gains interest, knowledge, and experience, it naturally grows out of it and recognizes that my interest has changed since I have grown up a bit. The same way that in regular human life, when you go to a primary school, you learn ABC, you learn the basics of mathematics, you took the lessons of reading, but once you have learned that, you naturally progress forward because you already know. You already know how to put the letters together and make a word. So you naturally have progressed forward, and this is what every soul in the universe does. So therefore, upon investigation, inquiry, or simply desire, because there are two major paths. There is the path of knowledge, inquiry, and the path of, we can say, devotion, which is desire, which is longing for God, for liberation. So one way or another, this desire arises to know what is real, to find oneself, or to merge with God, to merge with divine, with consciousness itself, with ultimate reality itself. One way or another, this desire arises, this fire awakens. And therefore, this desire, this fire, this awakening, it is yearning to find and to merge with the self, with the ultimate self. So the soul, moving through experiences, discovers what is real and what is unreal, what is providing more happiness and what is creating suffering. And therefore it learns to align itself with the way of the laws of the universe. It recognizes that by following the laws of the universe, it will be on a more optimal path towards liberation, and not knowing the laws of the universe might create suffering, because you might do something that you don't want to do, and out of ignorance something is miscreated, and therefore you get a result which you did not want. Many years ago in my own journey, I realized that I had more things that I don't want than I actually do want. I realized that I had more things that I don't want and don't need than actually who I was. So I realized that these thoughts are unnecessary. They just pop in, they're doing their thing, they're making all sorts of suggestions, and I realized I don't need them. I can live without them. I'll be much better without them. So I withdrew my interest from thoughts, suggestions, and therefore they started disappearing. Because that which you are not interested in, what does it do? No longer comes to you within a certain period of time. So I started to realize that I have more things that I don't need and don't want, and I'd be much better off to be much more empty, because that's what I wanted, to be more empty, to be more stable, to be in this ultimate stability, reality itself. And then emotions arise, and I was observing them, and oh my God, how many emotions there are, oceans and oceans of these emotions, and they color the whole experience. And then I wake up another day and other kinds of emotions, and this day is a nice day, so yeah, everything is bright and happy. And next day it's a storm and rainy outside, and the emotion is like and everything is colored by these emotions. And I recognized I don't want to be colored. I don't want to be colored by these emotions. I'm not interested in emotions anymore. It's okay if they arise. I don't block them. I don't suppress them. I don't resist them. But it's just that I'm not interested in them. And they arise. They do what they do. But since I'm not so interested in them anymore, they started to come less and less, and started to dissipate. And then there came a certain transcendent feelings. These emotions have a big spectrum of their expression, a large spectrum of expression. Just like the visible light from the dark, from the black, it goes into the gray, into the brown, into the blue and so on, and all these colors rise in their brightness until it reaches very, very white, bright, and it's like totally white. So there's a whole spectrum of colors, and the same way each emotion has its own large spectrum of experience. Every emotion has a large spectrum of experience. Yeah, like anger, it can be really rough. Like it can be rage. It can be then anger. It can be judgment is part of it. Blame is part of it. There are many attachments, and you navigate through all these layers and the whole spectrum of what is anger, and then you realize it's just not understanding. It's just not understanding something, not knowing something. And that's what anger is. And then it just starts to dissolve because the light of consciousness penetrates it, shines through it. So then you become less and less interested because the light of consciousness is more important to you than what is known or not known, what is understood or not understood, and therefore a reason to be angry is removed, eliminated. So many years ago I realized that I'm not so interested in emotions, and I'll just keep withdrawing my interest so that they polish up and the spectrum rises into as high as possible into this pure white light of the transparent awareness. And then it was about energies, oh my goodness, you awaken your energy body and it's a whole wonderland, it's a whole universe, so many new sensations, so many new opportunities, so many variations, infinite combinations. Yeah, truly infinite ways of blending those energies together to have certain experiences. But after a couple of years of being fully immersed in all these energetic, psychic, otherworldly, dimensional experiences, again I became not interested anymore, because that which is aware of energy for me became more obvious that is much more real. It is more satisfying to be aware rather than to become limited, confined within a specific range of energies. So you get what I mean when I say that you go through experiences to find your interest, and you learn what you resonate with. And therefore that is a path towards the unmoving, unchanging reality. Now, when I mention unmoving, unchanging reality, for some people it brings up fear, because will I exist any longer? Will I think? I think, therefore I am. Will I feel anything anymore? Will I still be here? All these, fears arises. And of course I say you will not disappear anywhere, because you are that unchanging, unmoving reality. You are that ultimate, that's your real essence. And the only thing that one holds is the fear and the doubt and the worry. So my recommendation is get rid of the fear and the doubt and the worry. Make everything clear for yourself. Clarify yourself what is what is real, and be happy. Yeah, you need to clarify your doubts, clarify your worries, clarify your anxieties. And that's generally called shining the light of awareness onto that which is unknown or unseen or ignored. Yeah, so the same way, even in the devotional path, one realizes that they have, suffering, that they have pain, that something is incomplete, and they're offering that to God. They're offering that to divine. And being honest, I will tell you that I did practice, path of devotion in my own way, and I actually love this path. Because every time I would see that there is something that I cannot inquire into anymore. Something is that there is something that I don't need anymore, and there is something that I can't inquire more into it. I offer it to God. That's my way. I offer it to the divine, and yes, and if you offer it earnestly and honestly and truthfully and faithfully and with complete dedication and surrender, it's gonna dissolve. It's gonna dissolve. It's gonna be alleviated. And there's no really much need for those, rituals and idols and so on. They're extras. They're more for sensory entertainment, for five sensory associations, and maybe they help for someone at lower levels of consciousness to have a visual thing, to make a connection, to make a little ritual, to feel like you're doing something important, and to make a little prayer, to invoke some thought and voice and energy into it, and maybe to play with the fire, with the elements, with the fire, these pujas and things like that. So these are transitory ways of devotion, of surrender. They're more engaged with five sensory perceptions and engaged with energetic entanglements and sensations. But the ultimate devotion is devotion, surrender, giving up. That's what it truly is. And therefore, of course, I invite everyone to find your way. You need to find your way, and everyone can do that. Yeah, if you have any images of these, fires and pujas and things like that, and you say, oh no, that's not for me, well, find your way. And maybe another person will say, well, inquiry is such a mental process. I'd rather do a ritual and dance and this and that. Well, do it that way. It's okay. That's where you are. That's for you. Yes, and I'm just wanting to share that everybody has their way, and ideally you use both techniques to clarify what is real and unreal, which is the inquiry, and also devotion, surrender. Yeah, with devotion you connect to the higher. Yeah, you project yourself outwardly to something higher, even if it's inside. God. You project yourself outwardly, and then you surrender. That's what you do. So ultimately, it is about the unmoving reality. God, I'll come back to this example of the screen, is never changed. God, divine, is never changed. Thanks God it never changes. Because if it would be subject to change, and if humanity was in charge of management of God, oh, the universe would be a very troublesome place. Thanks God that the God is unchanging. Because otherwise, no one could know for sure how to be free. Yeah, everybody would still wonder a lot and never have a true certainty of what is real. So thanks God that God is unchanging, unmoving, that it is our true nature. Yeah, that we're very lucky of the way that things really are. We are not so lucky, in these incarnations as, troubled humanity, but we are very lucky of the nature of the real existence. And we are very lucky that we can contemplate that we can inquire into that we have, that humanity has a capacity, an ability to do that, because animals cannot do that. They do not have capacity of realization, inquiry of what is real. They only live more or less instinctually, or intelligently instinctually, but they cannot self-realize as such. They do not possess this capacity, and humanity is right there as the next evolutionary step to have this capacity. And that's why humanity is very lucky, because there are many more souls in the physical form, animals, insects, all the fish, all the birds, and all the plants and trees and rocks, who have souls, but they do not have capacity to realize reality, God's existence. So to be free, you need a firm inquiry into what is truly, truly the most stable part of you, that is not subject to change no matter what happens. No matter what happens. What happens, happens. But you are always there. Good things happen, you are there. Bad things happen, you are there. Whatever happens in life, there's one and only one constant. It is you. And that you is not what you know of yourself, not what you think of yourself, not how you feel about yourself, but that is you. So throughout your whole life, you were an infant, you were you. You were a child, you were you. You were a troubled teenage or a good one, you were you. You were an adult, you were you. You will grow old and you will be you. And in your last moment of your last breath, you're gonna be you. And guess what? You're gonna continue to be you. You're gonna go to another place, on another dimension. You're gonna wake up somewhere else, as something else, as another form, and you're gonna still be you. And that's not gonna go anywhere. So when you realize that you are you always, throughout your whole life, throughout whatever happens, that is the freedom. To be you. I like one recent quote from a movie. It was, the quote goes as, I cannot be more or less of myself. I can't be more or less of myself. I am always myself. If one is troubled, still yourself. If one is happy, still oneself. You can't be more or less yourself. You can think as much as you want, you are yourself. You can stop thinking, you are yourself. You can feel anything you can ever want to feel, you will be yourself, always yourself. That is the self, this ultimate self. Did that anytime changed in your whole life? You being yourself. Did it ever change in your whole life, you being yourself? No, it didn't. Sometimes you get so busy and you forget, but you are forgetful yourself. Sometimes you remember and start to contemplate. Well, you are contemplating, that's what's going on. You engage with thoughts, you engage with feelings, you engage with energies, you engage with higher dimensions. You are always yourself. That is the self. And that self is no different than consciousness, awareness, God, divine. So that self cannot be changed. You being yourself cannot be changed. But your mentality can be changed, your emotional states can be changed, your energetics can be changed. All those things, they change. Yes, they can change. So realizing this, what does not change, you being you, and what changes within you as thoughts, mentality, emotional state, psychological state, spiritual state. Yeah, there's a whole spiritual spectrum of various identifications. I am spiritual now. Even identity, I am enlightened now. Or I have no idea who I am now. It doesn't matter. So essentially, you cannot be changed. The real you cannot be changed. And that is the one. So that's what I'm referring to, the unchanging, unmoving, always present. And it can only be you. If it is anybody else, it would be a thought for you. If you think that, oh, maybe it's not me or not for me, it's just a thought in you. And then how about others? That's another thought about others in you. So that you is unchanging you. It is the self. And all other things are thoughts. Some things are only thoughts. Some things are still relatively here, as there is this body, that body. It seems to be different, but the you-ness never changes. And when you liberate yourself to that you, which is the self, the thinking process, it dissipates. You no longer think in terms of me, myself, you are, and these assumptions. You're no longer thinking in terms of assumption. You can behave, according to situation, because this body still functions here, but there's no more separation, no more otherness, because it always was a certain thought, a certain assumption, a certain idea and concept. And the real you has always been here, and it's not gonna go anywhere. No matter how many bodies you're gonna change, how many lifetimes you're gonna change, how many different forms you're gonna take throughout the whole universe, that you is never gonna change. And that is the freedom. So now let's take a few moments to dedicate for meditation, for practice. And firstly, let's take a few moments to slow down. And we will be slowing down into that only one you, which has always been here. So let's start with the first step of slowing down and giving yourself a bit of time to process what you have received, what you have heard, what you have seen. Let's give a few moments to process what was, so that you can arrive more to what is. And allow everything to slow down, everything to slow down. Any thoughts, any feelings, any energies, even the perception of continuum, a perception of happening. Slow down that too. And that is the ultimate stillness. in Zen tradition, there is a saying that a shoe is walking to find itself. Or a fish is swimming to find itself. So you must be already here. And slowly you can start coming back and familiarizing that you yourself is here, and familiarizing that you might be pulled somewhere, you might be pulled into something, into that which is not your self. Whenever you are pulled into a certain energy or space or way of thinking, that is just a process or a place, appearance in your bigger self. When you follow a thought process, you become busy and engaged, but some part of you is still here. The larger, undivided part of you is still here. So sometimes you get pulled into fragmented stream or place or space or feeling. But even there, the larger part of you is still present. The undivided part of you is still present. And my invitation is to come back to your undivided self and notice what pulls you where, so that you bring awareness to those places and recognize your way back to the undivided self. That is a way to the present, to your present self. It is a deeper practice for a deeper meditative reflection, observation, noticing, and familiarizing with your undivided self, with you who is not pulled into anything. Just like the children, when they're grabbed by hand and their parent says, you need to do this in this way and don't do this in that way, the children are not happy because they're pulled into something of how things are supposed to be, of what is right and wrong. Same way, all the way to yourself. It's the same thing happening. You're pulled into something where you don't want to be, or where you go unawarely to explore a bit, to wander around, to check it out. But then you bump your head into something and you say, ouch. That might not be the place or the peace or happiness that I was looking for in the end. So in the end, there is no end. There is only your present self, your undivided self. In the end, you find no end. You find yourself here now. So this mental endingness, which is very promoted in the Hollywood, and happily ever after, is not really a real thing. Because in the end, there is no end, and that's where you are. And you are free. Not in the end, now. You can only be free now. So you should also check your ends, your dreams and hopes and desires and wishes. You should check all of your projections to the end, and I'll tell you there is no end. There is only now. And you are here now, and that is good. Not only good, that is God. It's much more than good. So that is your way back to the now. By checking where you are getting pulled. By checking your ends, your projections, dreams, desires, hopes, and wishes. Because later, that later is always postponed. I say, maybe later, and then you keep postponing things. You use your undivided self, and then you use your fragmented attention to project into later. And in that projection, there is a certain imprinted picture that it's gonna be all fine. Or I will be happy then. Or it's all gonna work out then. So you postpone all the good things for then, for the end, for this projection. And even more so, you are sustaining this projection. You are sustaining this illusion. You're using your life force energy now to sustain the projection of the end and thus not experiencing the fullness of yourself because you're projecting there and you're sending your energy there out from the now to sustain that thing there. What a waste of energy. What a waste of effort. And that I realized is another thing that I don't need. It just wastes my energy. It doesn't do anything good. No. It keeps my freedom postponed. It keeps my happiness postponed. I don't want to do that. I don't want to postpone my happiness and freedom. Do you? No. So these are some deeper mechanics, projections that you can become aware of. And that's how this fragmentation happens. And you are sustaining that. Only you are sustaining that. But don't worry, your undivided self is here. And you can always remember that, come back to that, and see what you are sustaining. See it's unnecessary. See how you are projecting, and see how you get pulled and dragged, or sometimes voluntarily. Let me just check you out and wander a bit around. See how things are on the other side. Yeah, it happens both ways. So you get into stuff, and then you need to get out of stuff so that you can be free here now. Not postponing your happiness and freedom, love and peace for later. So that is my invitation to you. Don't postpone it. Observe what happens. Observe what happens. Watch it closely. Become stronger. That's what you should do. That's how you take things back to yourself. You become self-responsible, being able to respond in a more correct way. You become more self-responsible. You mature, you grow up consciously, and you learn how to stay yourself, how not to get pulled, dragged, projected, fragmented. So that's why it takes a bit of effort to burn up those processes so that you can return and retain yourself as self. But once you're there, you are. And you are aware, you see instantly how things happen. Maybe some past cycle comes up and it pulls you, and you say, no, I'm not gonna get there anymore. And you know this, like, you know, when you have experienced something before, now you know better. So watch things closely. So when you get to yourself, you keep watching things closely as these things come back, but you stay as you are. You don't get fooled anymore by energies, by illusions, projections, and appearances and hopes and dreams and wishes and all those promising things, mirages, mirrors of reality. Because your own self is much more real, it's much better than anything else in the whole universe. That's who you are. So stay as you are, stay yourself. In the end, there is no end. You are. You always been, you are, you always will be. And that's the best thing there ever is, was, or can be.